Hello, I'm Camilla Eckersley, co-owner of Prairie Underground. We're thrilled to do this tutorial on how to hand sew our Prairie double pleat mask as a lead up to Path's Art for All Ball on December 3rd. This partnership highlights our shared values of creativity, activism, and collaboration. I love making things and I love sewing. I hope this video can serve as a jumping off point for you to make something beautiful. So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make our simple double pleat mask. You can sew this by hand or feel free to use a machine for all the stitching. To make one of these masks, you'll want two different fabrics. I'm going to use this fabric as my shell fabric and this as my lining. I like to use a different color fabric for my lining so I know the inside of the mask. And then for the ear loops, you're going to want to use either some elastic or I found if you use some cotton lycra and cut it into strips, you can make a very soft ear loop. Here I have a twist tie to use for the nose wire, and I have a needle and thread. So the first thing we're going to do is cut out two pieces of fabric 8 by 7.5 inches, and I'm just going to cut them out at the same time. And then I'm going to cut the piece of cotton lycra for my ear loops. I'm going to cut a strip about 1 inch wide. And then if you pull on this, you end up with a nice soft elastic for your ear loops. And I'm going to cut these 7.5 inches long. And then I'm going to get my nose wire ready, and I like to fold in the sides so that it won't poke through your stitch line. So it's folded like that. So then you're going to get your needle and thread. The first thing we're going to do is stitch across the top of the two pieces of fabric. And I'm stitching them at about 3/8 of an inch in from the top. So now that you've sewn the top together, you come through and open your seam allowance and then fold it right side out. You can mark the placement for your nose wire. And I'm going to mark that at 2 3/4 from each end. And you're going to stitch down and over, insert the nose wire, and then close this tunnel. I'm hiding my knot inside the mask. Trying to make my stitches very small so the wire won't poke through. So when you get to the end of your tunnel, you're going to insert your nose wire. And I want you to insert it between the shell and its seam allowance so that it's has no possibility of poking through this top seam here. So I'm just sliding it in, and then I'm going to close this tunnel. I'm going to stitch it a couple times to reinforce it. I'm going to put the knot inside. Great way to do a hand sew knot is to stitch a little loop. Put your needle through that loop and then put your needle through that other loop that you just made and pull it. And then you'll want to leave a little tail in your stitch line. So now we have our nose wire. I'm going to turn this back to inside out and pin in my ear loops. And the ear loops go at the very top here and then at about 1/2 inch from the bottom. Like right at about there. So now we're going to hand stitch down the side, over. We're going to leave a little bit of space so we can flip it right side out. We'll start again here, go over, and all the way up. So after you've stitched it, we're going to flip it right side out. Great way to flip these corners is to fold them to create a point and then flip them through. And then you can use your scissor tip to get a nice point. So I'm going to do that with all 4 corners. So at this point, you should have a little rectangle here with your ear loops attached, and you have your nose wire here at the top. So now we're just going to stitch 2 pleats in each side, and we'll do those by hand. I'm going to measure down 1 1/4. 4 times. And then I'm going to pin these to make it a little easier to sew. So this is what the mask is going to look like. We're just going to hand stitch each of these pleats down. This opening here, you can leave open so you can put a filter inside, or you can go ahead and stitch it closed using the same stitch.